Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this roundup of round 4 of the Six Nations, where Rich, the rugby analyst, is joining me. How are you doing, Rich?
I'm good. I'm good. My head's a bit scattered from this weekend. It's late, but I'm excited. So bear with me. I think everything's in there, but let's see how it goes. But what a brilliant weekend of rugby, wasn't it?
Absolutely awesome. And well, I can say that there's definitely one video where you make a lot of sense, Rich. So I'm sure you're going to be good on this one because we've already done a video which you will find on Rich's channel. So go and find that at Rugby Analyst on YouTube. And while you're here, get stuck in the comments down below with anything you think, with your thoughts, your big takeaways from the weekend as we delve into each of the 3 fixtures from a fantastic round of Six Nations games. And you've already touched upon it there, Rich. It was so entertaining this weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the difference. If we're starting with that England-Ireland game, England games in the past have been sometimes a bit hard to watch, even as England fans, but that was exciting. The way they played, they really went for it. They moved the ball. They caught the ball for one thing, but those attacking shapes they were putting together, we haven't seen for an awful long time. Plus, Borthwick decided to throw some of the talent in there, and it told. Some of the things they did was just from individuals doing great things.
Well, yeah,
Who
that's
really
a
stood
great
out
place.
for you?
That's a great place to
John?
start, is the fresh personnel and the difference that they made. Because I think to a man, I mean, the whole team was brilliant. So it was definitely one of those performances where everybody contributed. But Ollie Chesham at blindside flanker made you not miss Courtney Laws in quite the same way that we thought we might be missing Courtney Laws. He was absolutely fantastic. George Martin, we've both talked about him on our channels, Rich. I know you're as big a fan of George Martin as I am. Just a beast. Bearing in mind, I was excited about seeing him up against Joe McCarthy. For him to just completely make Joe McCarthy anonymous in this match was quite something. So just those two in the pack were massive for England.
Absolutely. I mean, the tackle that George Martin put in on Tyke Byrne, I mean, that was just earth-shattering, wasn't it? And Chesham did better. He did better than I thought at blindside flanker. I thought he'd do okay, but it really liberated him. It felt like he could just go around, zooming around, using his athletic ability. He's not a massive second row, and it kind of worked. So it looks like China Cunningham South is out of the Six Nations. In fact, I think the squad replacements came through, and the replacement back row was
Guy Pepper.
an open side, Guy Pepper, an open side. So it
Yeah.
looks like Chesham, that's his shirt. Maybe Roots, of course, but I thought Pearson might come in, but they're not bringing in another 6. So
No.
it looks like he's there to stay for a little bit.
And tactically, it was quite interesting to see Bernal used in defence as a flanker. He was packing down on the flank with Ollie Chesham in the number eight slot. So there's a little bit of fluidity in that England pack, which but the bare bones of it was excellent in that sense. And to jump into the back line, Furbank given another crack of the whip. I endorse that. I think it would have. I'm not sure, you couldn't have argued really what was the point in bringing him in Scotland if you weren't willing to stick with whatever it is you saw in him in the first place, whether or not you think Stewart or Furbank is the first choice. I think sticking with him was the right call. And Faye Waboso is legit. There were 2
Yeah.
moments for me, Rich, and I know when you and I played together back at uni, you were a winger, so I'm sure you all have appreciated both these things. The carry that he did near the end of the game, real hard carry and retain the ball just before the drop goal, and a few minutes before that, I think it was, a bomb of a high ball was put on him under his own posts, and he came through in both moments. And those were some fundamental wing skills, in addition to all of the lovely X Factor stuff that he gets talked up a lot for.
Goodness me, he does a lot more than anything I could do, that's for sure. But I think what kind of irritates me a little bit is we knew he was legit at the beginning. He wasn't just, I mean, Henry Arundel was super quick. We knew that, but also we kind of knew he'd need time, etc. From what we'd seen of Faye Wabusu at Exeter, he looked all round to me. He didn't look like he had massive weaknesses. Of course, he's inexperienced, but it's just a shame he didn't start until now. That's my only regret.
Yeah, he has only played a handful of first team
Yeah,
games in the Premiership. So I kind of introducing him gradually, and obviously he's had now 4 or 5 weeks in the England camp. He's never been in an international camp before, so
fair enough, fair enough.
I'm willing to let that one let that one slide a little bit. The one thing that he does, which Henry Arundel does not do, and maybe some other wingers don't, is he works inside off
Oh,
his wing a lot in the way that Jack Noel did, and in the way that I think Tommy Freeman and Emmanuel Faye were both do this brilliantly. Henry Arundel, it used to infuriate me. Like he's got all the talent in the world, he'll just stand on his
yeah,
wings. Like
yeah,
if you're not getting the
big
ball,
time.
go looking for it, and you get the feeling that Faye Weboso, as just like Freeman, will if they're quiet for any length of time, they'll go and find the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, of course, but he does look the real deal because he is very quick, incredibly powerful, and he can catch a high ball, and he looks for work, and he tackles hard, and he's well into it. He's completely involved in that team. You could see him, celebrating and like he's been there forever. Am I getting carried away? Probably, but I haven't seen a young winger look this good straight away for a long time.
Yeah, and it was a mindset shift from the England team. I'll move over to Ireland in a second, but
Yeah.
it just felt like a mindset shift, as you say. And there were moments, but this was complete. And but as much as all the attacking stuff, and what I loved was just seeing the space on the field. I was in the stadium, and you get that broad
Yeah, you can
view
see
of
the
the
whole
pitch.
field.
Yeah, I could see the space, and for once, you could see the space, and there was an identification of that on the field and a willingness to get the ball there. It was awesome to see. But fundamentally, and this is the bit that should never be overlooked, is coming back to those absolute brutes up front to make Tyg Furlong and Andrew Porter and Dan Sheehan and Joe McCarthy and Peter O'Mahony, and to make these like household names, amazing rugby players, to make them look a bit quiet took a
Yeah, they were quiet.
monumental
That's
effort
it.
from the pack.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't say the English scrum decimated the Irish, but they did well. And who were the players that we were talking about? It was the English ones. I mean, how old's George Martin? Is he 22?
22, same age as Joe
20.
McCarthy.
Yeah, and he looks like an absolute beast, just like Joe McCarthy, tree trunk legs, built like an ox, and those both of those guys are going to be absolute beasts, aren't they?
Yeah, it's awesome to watch. So to flip it over to Ireland, how my read of that match was Ireland weren't really bad. England didn't allow them to play the game they wanted to play. That blitz defense shut them down. But they got round it a couple of times, and one of the James Lowe tries came from managing to evade the blitz. But I put it down to England didn't allow Ireland to do what they do, rather than Ireland were particularly poor.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm sure I'm going to come on to it in a video in the week where I'm going to have a look at the blitz defense, and it does as much good as it does harm in a way. But what it does do is it gets in their face, and it's just bloody annoying. I don't think they've nailed it at all, but they were shooting up, they were hitting hard, and Ireland were making some mistakes, and they couldn't get that string of phases going that they're so well known for, and they could never get into it. And then as soon as they, gave the ball to England, England actually put in lots of sustained attack themselves. So they never had that big period of pressure that they've had so far.
It was quite amazing, actually, that Ireland, with the limited ball they had, managed to only lose the game in the final moment. That probably speaks to how good they are, that they managed to get as many points on the board as they did with the limited ball that they had. But I think there's one thing that hindsight's 2020, and I actually don't mind the 6-2 split. But for all the people that have complained that 7-1 splits, 6-2 splits shouldn't be allowed, things like this, well, there's a risk as much as there's a reward, and the risk backfired in Ireland's case with Nash
Big time.
and Frawley both getting HIAs.
Yeah. I mean, Gibson Park is by so far their best nine,
Miles.
especially completely different to Murray. To
Yeah.
get your best nine and have him to stand on the wing is just so painful. Could they have done anything else? Could Murray have gone anywhere else? I don't think so. I mean, I'd have to think about it. Um, Murray to 10, but then there's no point with that. So yeah, they had to do it, and it just killed him.
Yeah, it massively backfired. And what I like about Andy Farrell is what he said in his post-match chat. What he's been saying in variations of this in all of his interviews is just, okay, well, we've got quite good at winning. Now let's see what we're like at losing, and let's pick the bones out of it and find the lessons. And it's not about apportioning blame. It's not about making excuses. He's actually he almost weirdly seemed quite excited to see how his team's going to respond to this disappointment. And I love a steady hand on the tiller like that. So what would, if you were Andy Farrell, what would you be sort of taking away? I think that the composition of the 6-2 split and exactly who the personnel are that are on the bench would be one, because
Yeah,
I think you've
oh
already identified
yeah.
it. Jamison Gibson Park is by a mile the best scrum half. For example, sorry, I'm talking over you. You go on.
No, I will answer it. I was just wondering if you had any idea what the argument was between Farrell and Borthwick, which I really liked actually from both of them. I like that a lot. Any
Not
idea
a
at all?
clue, and they didn't give
Not
anything
a
away
clue.
either.
No, absolutely. Yeah, they're gentlemen, aren't they? I like them both. I think Farrell will just take the fact that Ireland are human, England are a good side, they've got lots of good players, and if we're off it, we're going to lose. If you are not on it 100%, you know you're not superhuman, you're going to lose. Um, I think that's it, really. It's sport, isn't it? If you don't play that great and the other side plays great, you're going to lose.
Yeah, you're probably
And
right.
even
And
yeah,
I'd also, and I've mentioned this on the channel already, but draw a very big distinction between Irish fans, the Ireland players and coaches, and the Irish media, because there were some daft things said in the week. Simon Zebo saying that Ireland will win by 35 points. Jamie Heaslip saying that England's only chance of winning is if Ireland play with 13 men, but start the match with 13 men. Just daft stuff like that, which doesn't reflect well on the Irish team or Irish fans, who are both brilliant.
yeah, yeah. I didn't really listen to that, to be honest. I didn't really catch that. Um, but you got to say England, they could have blown that as well. George Ford kicked like an absolute drain, to be honest. And they should have scored another try in the first half. So they could easily have thrown it away and Ireland could have got a scrappy win. What were the kicks looking like from your vantage point on the gantry?
Yeah, yeah, like as you say, there were points left out on the field. Some were tricky. The Elliot Daly one from halfway was hard. One of the conversions for George Ford was tricky. Should have got the penalty in front of the sticks. Um, so yeah, but when you look at the attacking side of the play, from which England did score the tries, George Ford was really important at setting those attacks in motion. So I've seen a
That's
lot
what
of
he's good at.
that's what he's really good at, and I've seen a lot of comments about, oh, now got to get Marcus Smith in now because Ford's kicks were rubbish, ignoring the fact that England scored some wonderful tries and had some great attacking play, of which George Ford was massively important. So I'm not going to throw the baby out with the
Well,
bathwater
I
just
mean,
yet.
I would put Marcus Smith straight in just because I think he's
Yeah,
the future. He's England. George Ford's a great attacking ball in play guy. But if you're going to beat these big guys regularly, you need a fly half who can run. You need a fly half with a step, some pace, um, bit better tackler. So I just think he did well. His passing was awesome. He got the attack going. But I think, if we're going to go into this summer against the All Blacks twice, and then the autumn All Blacks, South Africa, Australia, I think if Marcus Smith's going to be our man, then get him in. I'm not saying George Ford isn't unbelievable at that
yeah.
attack, but I think if you're going for the future, I would get him in actually.
No, when I did my selection before this game, I actually put Marcus Smith in for the same reasons as everything you've just said, and I was looking at it as a shot to nothing. I just yeah, let's just respect the great player that George Ford is. So whether he starts or he's on the bench, he's a wonderful player, and that's one problem England do not have and have never really had, is a good fly half. We've got a bunch of them. So lots to talk about there. Get stuck in the comments on England Ireland as we sort of dive into that one. The one that's freshest in the mind. Let's just dig into the weeds a little bit of Wales against France. Another amazing atmosphere, and for 40 minutes it looked like we were going to have a clean sweep of upsets.
Huh. Yeah, it was a cracking game. It was a really good game. I mean, France, their power told, didn't it? It definitely told. But Wales had played a really smart game up until that point. and by they're really going for it in attack as well. They're joined up in defence. They were going for it in attack, running good shapes, and then they fell apart under the power in the last 20,
Yeah.
which is kind of where Wales are at. I think France were the better team. Would you say?
Oh yeah, France were the better team, and France, exactly as I said about England earlier, and the bedrock of their win was doing those fundamentals very well, and having lots of 150 kilogram men who will just repeatedly run into contact is going to take its toll over an 80-minute game, and it did for Wales. I admired what Wales were trying to do. It also, in a similar way, well, we can get onto Scotland with this. It just seemed a little bit naive, and you're going to get found out if you try and do that. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think of a team that have managed to play the way Wales were playing and try to avoid the big physical parts of rugby and actually have that work. I'm not sure at
yeah.
international level it can.
I think a little bit naive is a bit kind, to be honest. I think they were a lot naive, and I guess the coaches must let them do this, but they're really whacking crossfield kicks that are on for a second and then not on, and giving the ball away, and then at the end, Johan Lloyd coming on, just some absolute craziness, and other players looping out huge passes, inviting the French onto them. It was pretty silly, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know where Wales fans are, because up till now, despite 3 defeats, this is quite exciting. There's young guys that we can get behind. We're not expecting too much, but we're playing some exciting rugby. There was still exciting rugby, and in the first half, 3 entries to the 22, 3 tries. Rio Dyer, for example, looks great. Cam Winnett's been good.
Fantastic. Rio
Yeah,
Dyer, God.
yeah, Rio Dyer,
No.
ace.
Ooh.
He's ace. So there's kind of something to grab hold of there. But when will the patience? When will the defeats? I mean, if they lose to Italy, I wonder will that change the dynamic? Will they suddenly will the Wales fans tell me in the comments? Will you suddenly start being less patient with this style, exciting as it may be? You've kind of got to deliver, and this is what we'll go on to Italy in a minute. But it was exactly this sort of rugby which meant that Kieran Crowley is out of a job.
True. But I think for Wales as well, I think you've got to say Tompkins and George North weren't playing that match. And I think that was to rotate more than anything. I think they will be playing against Italy, you would hope. Johan Lloyd killed them a bit as well. They could do with an experienced fly half come back in. So
Do you really think it was rotation, Rich?
oh,
is that your assessment on, because they've just had a week off?
it's the only reason that I can think of that is logical. Because Watkins isn't, I don't think, a patch on Tompkins or North. Roberts is young. I I can't see how. I don't think it's, if it wasn't rotation, it wasn't a very good call. I don't think.
Yeah, my read of it, having watched the game as well, was that Warren Gatland thought France are full of massive players. We cannot live with that. I'll pick the biggest pack I can, but we're also quite light and mobile, so let's just go. And I think he picked the players that he thought would just play the loosest rugby the best. I think
Well,
that
they played. Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
that
think it's a
might be
very.
why he made the
Yeah,
selection, and I think maybe that was naive of Warren Gatland. I don't know, but then you don't know the counterfactual. Had he started with Tompkins and North and been a bit more pragmatic, maybe they'd have been chewed up and spat out exactly the same.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was a bit of a mistake. I think you know they're going to get one of their more experienced fly halves is going to come back in, Anscombe or something, and help to mentor Costello, who seems to be the next 10, and then Tompkins and North in to help. I think they could have a really good shot against Italy,
Yeah, I
and
want to. I
probably
like.
sorry.
Uh, oh, sorry, go on, Rich. What were you saying?
So I was just going to say, and Adams as well was looking just woefully out of form. So I
Yeah,
think Grady on the wing, Tompkins North in, somebody else instead of Johan Lloyd, and I think you and stick with the general game plan. And I think you're starting to cook with gas a bit.
yeah, I can see that. And again, to sort of emphasise a positive from a Welsh perspective, bearing in mind Lewis Rees-Zammit, who, but I think he in the next week or two he's got his pro day where all the coaches from NFL teams will come and have a look, and it will decide do they want to pull the trigger on him or not, or will he be coming straight back to rugby union in the UK. So we'll wait and see on that. But with all the disappointment at the 11th hour before the Six Nations, with that, Rio Dyer has been a massive positive for Wales.
Yeah.
So
I knew he was nippy, but he's just stepped up so much in every area of his play. He's always the first on the chase, isn't he? He's
his
leaving
kick chase
the
is
others
amazing.
in.
He's like a
The
dog after a
best.
ball in the park. He's amazing.
And he's always leaving the others behind him. There's no one that can live with him on the kick chase.
Yeah.
And his skill, he was coming in and passing as well as an extra passer. I mean, man, unbelievable. Him and Tommy Raphael, players of the tournament for Wales.
Absolutely, 100%. Just very briefly on France, I noticed one thing. Raphael Ibanez appeared to be back in the camp this week. The team manager that apparently had a bit of a fallout with Fabien Galtier, and was apparently a big part of the feeling of cohesion and unity within the group. He was quite an important figure. So he might be back in the camp. So I wonder whether there's been some bridges being built behind the scenes and around and about. But just on the actual personnel that were out on the field, not perfect, but a step forward for France.
Definitely. What's the French saying then? If Ibanez is in there was just more of a jeu de vivre. Is that a phrase? Joy of life, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It just felt like there was a spring in the step. They were playing, they were trying. Sure, they were getting in each other's way at times, but goodness me, they were coming on at pace. They were offloading. It was exciting. It was France. It was exciting to watch. I don't think personnel-wise they're quite there at their best team. Ramos was struggling a bit, went missing in defence. So, Intermac's going to come straight back in, isn't he, when he's fit? Dupont's going to come back in off the sevens, and hopefully they'll be in a good place.
Their midfield is quite an interesting area. I don't know whether you've seen the news this evening. Antoine Frisch at Munster has been called into the French squad.
Didn't see that.
No, it's just while we were chatting, Rich, it popped up on a WhatsApp group, and I was like, "Is that a joke?" So no, he's a Frenchman who was born in the Channel Islands, so I think he qualified for England, and then he's also Irish, or Irish qualified, so he went to Munster with a view to playing for Ireland. That didn't work, and now he's been called into the French squad. So they're clearly tinkering around with their midfield options. So yeah, that's quite an interesting little turn up. I don't know if there's an injury to one of the centres following the game, Deportier or Ficou, but
yeah, he's an interesting player, Deportier. He's an interesting 12, isn't he? Bit of everything.
Yeah, he's more of a 13 really, which I wonder whether that's maybe why they're thinking a specialist 12. So I think you're right in terms of personnel. They've got an embarrassment of riches in some positions, and then not quite at top level in others. But yeah, a step in the right direction, which is good. And then the final game, which we can just delve into, was the first of the weekend, and I was in in Twickenham, and in the underbelly of the stadium, under the gantries, the little media room, and there was a spontaneous round of applause with all the journalists and stuff at Twickenham. I know you've been in that room yourself, so you can imagine it. But there was a big round of applause when Italy won, and it was just difficult a pill as it is to swallow for Scottish fans. I'm sure even the most tartan of Tartan Army member will kind of appreciate the romance of that win and just what it will mean to Italy.
Yeah, and romance, but also there's strong foundations there, like you said before. I mean, the under-20s are consistently churning out good players, so they're going to get stronger and stronger. And, they've found some players. Lewis Liner playing on the wing, quiet in the first half, better in the second half, but also that frees up their best back, Menoncello, to go in the centres. Unbelievable. So that frees up a position there. Both scrum halves were looking good. Rex was looking dangerous. Vincent, I think, is a really good player to come in as well in the back row. The break he made for the try was, absolutely crucial. So
his tackle count and meters, he just both sides of the ball, he was huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big win for Italy. Really big win. They needed it. Yeah, and it's the sort of thing they need to build on, definitely. They need a few more massive forwards, probably. A couple of second rows, maybe. And then they're starting to get there.
Yeah, well, that's just it, isn't it? It's a little bit like Wales, actually. Italy, it's the depth. When Negri wasn't there and he was back, made a massive difference. When Lorenzo Canoni coming off the bench, who hasn't been there, you just take a couple of big key important positions out, and it's a totally different side. One of the most pleasing performances for Italy for me was Pedrello at scrum half, because that's a massive problem position,
Yeah.
or it has been for Italy. But actually, they had a scrum half performance that actually matched the rest of the team for once. It's been an area which has held them back a little bit.
Yeah, I've been raving about him in the last match as well. I said, this guy's a revelation. This is the guy they've needed. So that was fantastic. But also, I'd say style, they say in boxing, styles makes fights, doesn't it? But both of these teams come to play and it really suited the game. So I don't know if Italy would have struggled more up against, a big bopping team like France, maybe. And they quite liked the fact that Scotland were fairly loose and gave them gaps and opportunities. So maybe that helped a little bit as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it was really good. And over to Scotland, I mean, actually, what are you saying, Scotland fans? Tell me in the comments. Do you get the sense that the it's starting to wear thin a little bit with Gregor Townsend? I mean, only a couple of weeks ago, the talk was, oh, we're one refereeing decision away from a Grand Slam decider in Dublin. It's just unravelled.
I don't think so. No, I mean, they know they're a good side with lots of good players, and this is how they've decided to play, and they've gone absolutely all in. And they scored just some fantastic tries. There's so much good play there. It is, it is kind of fine lines, I guess. A little bit of control here or there, a bit of mental toughness here or there. And they're a small nation. They've got two teams. They know they haven't got a massive player pool coming through, so I think there's some perspective there as well from the Scottish fans that they know they don't have a right to be there as such. That it is close. It's close. It was they could easily have won that game.
How excited are you for? Well, I mean, obviously we'll be previewing the upcoming weekend in the videos on our channel, so hit subscribe on both. But where and how are you going to be watching the Super Saturday? Are you going to have a full
Oof.
9 hours blocked out to watch all the games?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the only way to do it, isn't it? Just go absolutely crazy. Starting off with a bang, Wales, Italy, which is, maybe the most exciting game. It might be the best one. And then in the middle, obviously, Ireland, maybe they secure that Six Nations. And then it's kind of a battling out for positions, maybe France, England. But yeah, I think Wales, Italy. I think that's the one I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, agreed. I can't wait. I love this competition. And I could chat about it all night, but we've both got other places to be and things to do, Rich. So I will let you go, and thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
No, thanks, Tim.
Go and find the other video that Rich and I have done at Rugby Analyst. Hit subscribe there. Loads of great stuff on Rich's channel, and I'm always impressed by the comments in that one. And I wanted to see what yours are in this. So get stuck in down below, and I'll see you on the next one.